There was a time when heartbreak came with silence. You could disappear. No last scene. No blue ticks. No Instagram stories proving you laughed too soon. No memories popping up to remind you who you used to be. Just distance and time. But today, even after someone breaks your heart, the world keeps demanding proof that you're okay. Before we continue, if stories like this remind you of pieces of your own life, take a second to subscribe. This channel isn't just about memories, it's about understanding why they still live inside us. And tell me in the comments, have you ever wanted to disappear after heartbreak? I'd really like to read your story. Part 1. The day heartbreak stopped being private. Heartbreak has always existed. Every generation has cried into pillows. Every generation has stared at ceilings wondering why love wasn't enough. But something changed. Not love. Not pain. The way we were allowed to heal. Years ago, when someone left, the world quietly stepped aside. You stopped answering the phone. Friends eventually stopped asking. People assumed you needed space. You could vanish for weeks. Sometimes months. And nobody thought you were strange. Your absence became part of your healing. Today, absence feels suspicious. If you don't reply, someone notices. If you stop posting, people wonder. If your profile picture changes, people start guessing. If you disappear, the algorithm remembers you. Even if everyone else forgets. Somehow, our broken hearts became public property. You don't just lose someone anymore. You lose the right to grieve privately. Because while your world has collapsed, your phone keeps lighting up. Someone tagged you. Someone invited you somewhere. Someone sent another meme. Someone asked, "Are you okay?" And the hardest part is realizing they don't really expect an honest answer. Because we've all learned the socially acceptable response. I'm fine. I'm just busy. I'm doing better. Sometimes those 3 words, I'm doing better, hurt more than the breakup itself. Because deep inside, you know they aren't true. Heartbreak used to happen behind closed doors. Now, it happens with an audience. Every smile gets interpreted. Every silence gets analyzed. Every song you post becomes evidence. Every quote becomes a confession. You aren't just healing anymore. You're performing healing. And performance is exhausting. Sometimes, you don't want advice. You don't want closure. You don't even want revenge. You simply want permission to disappear. Not forever. Just long enough to remember who you were before someone else's love became your identity. But modern life rarely grants that permission. Instead, it keeps asking, what are you doing? What happened? When are you moving on? As though healing had a deadline. Think about the last time your heart broke. Maybe you deleted photos. Maybe you didn't. Maybe you blocked them. Maybe you kept checking their profile every night. Not because you expected them to come back, but because part of you hoped to find proof that they missed you too. Isn't that strange? Technology promised connection. Yet after heartbreak, it often delivers surveillance. We don't just remember people anymore. We monitor them. And in doing so, we keep reopening wounds that might have healed if we'd simply been allowed to disappear. Some people think heartbreak is about losing another person. But often, The hardest thing we lose is ourselves. The version that laughed more easily, trusted more freely, believed forever was possible. After enough disappointment, you begin introducing yourself to the world differently. More careful, more guarded, more afraid. Not because you wanted to change, because heartbreak quietly rewrote you. If any part of this feels familiar, pause for just a moment and leave a comment with one word that describes your biggest heartbreak. It could be silence, betrayal, distance, regret, or something only your heart understands. And if these stories speak to you, subscribe so we can keep exploring the emotions many people feel but rarely talk about. Here's the part almost nobody admits. Sometimes, we don't miss the person. We miss the future we imagined with them. The vacations that never happened. The conversations that were supposed to happen years from now. The children who never existed. The old age we pictured together. Heartbreak doesn't only steal memories. It steals possibilities. It asks you to mourn a life that never actually happened. How do you explain grief for something invisible? You can't. So instead, you smile. Go to work. Reply to messages. Post a photo. Pretend everything is normal. While inside, you're attending the funeral of a future no one else can see. Perhaps that's why old love letters still feel heavier than text messages. A handwritten letter stayed in a drawer. It waited patiently. It didn't notify you every Tuesday. It didn't appear in On This Day. It didn't remind you every anniversary. You chose when to reopen the memory. Today, the memory chooses you. A notification. A shared memory. An accidental photo. One familiar song. And suddenly, months of healing feel like they disappeared in seconds. The truth is, our hearts were never designed to heal at the speed of technology. Love moves slowly. Trust grows slowly. Healing moves even slower. But our screens expect instant responses. Instant recovery. Instant happiness. Instant replacement. And somewhere along the way, we started believing we were failing. Simply because we couldn't heal overnight. Maybe the bravest thing anyone can do today isn't finding someone new. Maybe it's refusing to pretend they are okay. Maybe courage looks like silence. Maybe healing looks like disappearing for a while. Not to punish anyone. Not to make someone chase you. But because your soul deserves a place where nobody is watching it break apart. Maybe that's what we've truly lost. Not love. Not hope. But permission. Permission to step away from the noise. To become invisible for a little while. And slowly gather the scattered pieces of ourselves. Because some hearts don't need another conversation. They need quiet. And in a world that never stops watching, quiet has become one of the rarest forms of healing. But there is something even more painful than being unable to disappear after heartbreak. It's the moment you realize the person you can't stop searching for is no longer them. It's the version of you that existed before they broke your heart. And that's where our story continues. Sometimes, the hardest person to find after heartbreak isn't the one who walked away. It's the version of yourself that disappeared with them. Because love doesn't only leave memories. Sometimes, it leaves empty rooms inside us. Rooms we spend years trying to fill. Some people spend months looking for closure. Others spend years. But here's the quiet truth nobody prepares us for. Closure isn't always something another person gives you. Sometimes, it's something life slowly teaches you. One ordinary morning, without asking permission, you wake up. The pain isn't gone. But it isn't sitting on your chest anymore. The memories still exist. But they no longer interrupt every quiet moment. Their name still appears in your mind. Only now. It feels like reading an old chapter, instead of living inside it. Healing rarely arrives with fireworks. It arrives almost unnoticed. Like winter becoming spring. You don't see the exact moment everything changes. You simply realize. One day. You've stopped counting the days since they left. That's the strange thing about broken hearts. While we're living through them, they convince us they'll never heal. Every sunrise feels heavier. Every song sounds written for us. Every couple walking past reminds us of what we lost. Our own thoughts become places we don't want to visit. Yet somehow, life keeps moving. Not because it's cruel, but because it's gently reminding us that we still belong to tomorrow. One of the greatest lies heartbreak tells us is that we'll never love the same way again. And maybe that's true. Because we're not supposed to. Every love changes us. Every goodbye teaches us something. Some lessons are beautiful. Others arrive wrapped in disappointment. But every single one leaves fingerprints on the person we become. The goal was never to become the same person again. The goal was to become someone who could carry the memories without letting them carry you. There comes a moment when you stop asking, why didn't they choose me? And you begin asking, what kind of life do I want to build now? Those two questions sound almost identical, but they lead to completely different futures. The first keeps you facing yesterday. The second quietly opens the door to tomorrow. It's amazing how many people spend years waiting for one message, one apology, one explanation, one phone call, one sentence that finally makes everything make sense. But life has an unusual habit. Sometimes, the explanation never comes. Not because you weren't worthy, but because not every ending arrives with perfect words. Some stories simply stop. Without warning. Without justice. Without closure. And somehow, we're expected to keep living. Maybe that's why so many people struggle to move forward. They believe moving on means forgetting. But forgetting was never the assignment. You don't forget your first love. You don't forget the person who broke your heart. You don't forget the years that shaped you. You simply learn that remembering doesn't have to hurt forever. A scar is proof that healing happened, not proof that you're still bleeding. Think about the people you've lost throughout your life. Friends, family, relationships, dreams. Each one changed you. Each one left something behind. Sometimes pain. Sometimes wisdom. Sometimes both. If heartbreak teaches anything, it's that our lives are built from people who stayed. And people who couldn't. Both matter. Both shape us. Perhaps the greatest tragedy of modern life isn't that we can't disappear after heartbreak. It's that we've forgotten how to return. Not to another relationship. Not to another person. But back to ourselves. Somewhere beneath all the notifications. Beneath the endless scrolling. Beneath the memories social media refuses to let us forget. The person you were before the heartbreak is still waiting. Not unchanged, but unfinished. Still capable of laughing. Still capable of trusting. Still capable of loving. One day, you'll hear their favorite song. And instead of crying, you'll smile. Not because the story didn't matter, but because it did. One day, you'll walk past the places you once avoided, and they'll simply become streets again. One day, you'll realize you haven't checked their profile in months. Not because you forced yourself to stop, because your life became more interesting than their absence. That's when you'll know healing happened quietly, while you were busy living. The beautiful thing about broken hearts is that they don't stay broken forever. They grow differently. They love differently. They become wiser, more patient, more careful, but also more grateful. Because once you've experienced losing someone, you begin noticing the people who never left. The friend who kept calling. The family member who sat beside you without asking questions. The stranger who smiled when you needed it most. Love didn't disappear. It simply changed its shape. And maybe that's the lesson heartbreak was trying to teach all along. Not that love is temporary, but that your worth was never supposed to depend on whether someone stayed. You were whole before they arrived. You are still whole after they leave. It may not feel like it today, but one day, you'll stop measuring your life by who walked away and start measuring it by who you've become. Final message. If you're listening to this tonight, with tears in your eyes, or memories you wish you could forget, I hope you remember one thing. You are not weak because you're grieving. You are not falling behind because you're healing slowly. And you are certainly not alone. Some of the strongest people you'll ever meet are quietly carrying heartbreak that nobody else can see. So be gentle with yourself. Give yourself the time the world no longer seems willing to give. Because healing isn't about disappearing forever. It's about finding the courage to return as someone who finally understands that even a broken heart can still become a home. Final CTA. If this story reminded you of a chapter in your own life, I'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and finish this sentence. The hardest thing heartbreak taught me was. Your words may become the encouragement someone else desperately needs today. And if these reflective stories help you understand life, love, and the emotions we often keep hidden, subscribe and join this community. Every week, we explore the quiet truths that connect us all one story at a time. Until next time, take care of your heart. It has survived every difficult day you've ever lived through. And somehow, it is still choosing to beat.